Okay, this is part two in the new series on Natufians, and it's only a series because I go into part two here, but it contains genetics. And I didn't have nowhere near enough time after talking to the other part, and I couldn't have added any information if I had to and got through this during that same 45-minute period, so we're in part two. If you are watching part two and haven't seen part one yet, go to the end of this video and part one will be in your upper left hand corner. You can click on that and go back through, and or you can look at the wiki page on Natufians and see the same information, for it's just recently been updated June 28th of this year, and that's the reason for my update here. For they're making correlations that make connections that I've been trying to do with 4 different videos and go, if y'all been paying attention, blah blah blah. Well, here it is all together all of a sudden in this article, which I used at one time with 3 other things trying to show you connections, and now they put it in here. Shows you how kind of it feels like vindication, but we'll continue from here where we left off last time, and I hope it doesn't cut off the very end of it. Oh God. Is domesticated dog. Some of the earliest archaeological evidence for the domestication of dogs comes from the Natufian sites. At the Natufian sites of Ain Mahala in Israel, dated to 12,000 BC, the remains of an elderly human and a 4 to 5 month old puppy were found buried together. At another site that's known as the Natufian site at the cave of Hayanum, humans were found buried with 2 canines, or 2 dogs. Let's see, I'm going to have to get that about there. Sorry guys, I'm trying to get it to where you can still see stuff on the side. The picture that they're showing on the right hand side that you can barely see is a pelvis, and it's covered with a whole bunch of wolf's teeth. So she had a belt that had wolf's teeth on it. Kind of reminds me of the old Raquel Welch of 10,000 BC, but nah. Okay, we're getting into genetics here. Now, I'll go closer actually for the first part of it here. According to ancient DNA analysis conducted by Lazardus in 2016 on Natufian skeleton remains from present-day northern Israel, the Natufians carried the Y-DNA paternal male haplogroups E1B1B1B2 times E1B1B1B2A and E1B1B1B2B. And I'm not going to read all of these, but that's to 40%. And CT, which apparently is the parent group of E. So what we're actually seeing is a changing of haplogroups here and running through, if I understand it correctly, at 40% of the E1B1B2BB. 2 out of 5 people were carrying that. 40% CT, 2 out of 5 also, 40, and 1 E1B1. In terms of, which is 20%. In terms of autosomal DNA, these Natufians carried around 50% of the basal Eurasian, which is known as BE, and 50% of Western Eurasian unknown hunter-gatherers called UHG components. However, they were slightly from the northern Anatolian populations that contributed to the peopling of Europe, who had higher Western hunter-gatherer inferred ancestry. So, a little less of that, a little more of that. Variations on a theme, but the same people, as they're saying directly here. However, they were slightly distinct. Slightly. Natufians were strongly genetically differentiated from Neolithic Iranian farmers from the Zagros Mountains, which is basically Samaria and the other side of Samaria, the other side of the Euphrates and Zagros Mountains, who were a mix of basal Eurasians, BE, up to 62%, and ancient North Eurasians, known as ANE. This might suggest that differentiated strains of basal Eurasians contributed to Natufians and Zagros farmers, as both Natufians and Zagros farmers descended from differentiated populations of local hunter-gatherers. Contact between Natufians and other Neolithic Levantines, Caucasus hunter-gatherers, or the CHG, Anatolian and Iranian farmers is believed to have decreased genetic variability along the later populations in the Middle East. In other words, they kind of blend it all into one. If you were to say that, well, like, I don't know, here's a good example, maybe not. In ancient America, we had the French owning one area, and then the Spanish owning one area, and then Europeans owning another area. And if they left it alone and went for thousands of years, eventually blending all together, they would have ended up becoming one kind of. And yet, every one of those is actually related to each other before that happened, just speaking a different language. Right. So, kind of works out that way, but also, maybe you can see in this moment here kind of the revelation of Cain and Abel. Right? Ding. The scientists suggest that the Levantine early farmers may have spread southward into East Africa, bringing along the Western Eurasian and Basal Eurasian ancestral components separate from that which would arrive later in North Africa, knock knock. According to their results, the Natufians shared no genetic affinity to present-day sub-Saharan Africans. However, the scientists state that they were unable to test for affinity to the Natufians to early North African populations using present-day North Africans as a reference because present-day North Africans owe most of their ancestry to back migration from Eurasia. Ding. Ancient DNA analysis has confirmed ancestral ties between the Natufian culture bearers and the makers of the Epiphytic Ibero-Eurasian culture of the Maghreb, North Africa, the pre-pottery Neolithic culture of the Levant, the early Neolithic Ifrin Amur or Musa culture of the Maghreb, the Savannah pastoral Neolithic culture of East Africa, the late Neolithic Caliph el-Barud culture of the Maghreb, and the ancient Egyptian culture of the Nile Valley. Bam. With fossils associated with these early cultures all sharing a common genomic component. Those last two paragraphs, quite important. Let's continue. A 2018 analysis of autosomal DNA using modern populations as a reference found the Natufians to have been a predominant mixture of ancestral components from the Western Eurasia and North Africa, as well as small, calibrated about 6.8%, East African related ancestry, showing affinities to the Omotic peoples of southern Ethiopia. It is suggested that this East African component may have been associated with the spread of Y haplogroup E, particularly Y haplogroup EM215, also known as E1B1B, lineages to Western Eurasia. So that's why it's all through there and also in Europe. So let's talk about languages. But first, let's look at a picture. Look at these things again. So they're pretty nice made, and this one's got its cool little shape here. It'd be hard to stand up on its own. You must have had something else to hold it up like they've got now, or a hole in the ground that it's set in, knock, knock, knock. But these two are nice, but look how goddamn nice that piece is right there, just sitting almost hidden in the background where it's been made to perfection. I mean, the lip is perfectly symmetrical and flat, cut off like done with a laser. Shink! And it's perfectly made rim and smooth down and doesn't look like anything like these two, the other ones that are in front of it, does it? In the back is that mortar and pestle. Oh, that's from 22,000 years ago. I'll show you that later. So, while the period involved makes it difficult to speculate on any language associated with the Natufian culture, linguists who believe it is possible to speculate this far back in time have written on this subject, as well as other Natufian subjects. Opinions tend to either emphasize North African connections or Asian connections, Asian meaning Caucasian, not Orientals, The view that the Natufians spoke an Afro-Asiatic language is accepted by the Vitaly Shurovskin, Alexander Militarev, and others have argued that the Natufians may represent the culture that spoke the Proto-Afroatic language, that they have maybe that's where it even came from. Bing. He in turn believes that it has a Eurasian origin associated with it and the concept of Nostratic languages. The possibility of Natufians speaking a Proto-Afroasiatic and the language was introduced into Africa from the Levant is approved by Colin Renfro with caution, though, as possible hypothesis for Proto-Afroasiatic dispersal. Some scholars, for example, Christopher Arrett and Roger Blench and others, contend that the Afroasiatic Urheimat is to be found in North Africa and Northeast Africa, probably in the area of Egypt, the ancient Sahara, and through the Horn of Africa and Sudan. Within this group, Arrett, who, like Militarev, believes Afroasiatic may already have been in existence, and the Natufian period would associate Natufians only with the Near Eastern pre-Proto-Semitic branch of Afroasiatic. Well, there's also that Hamitic type form that comes from these people that are known to have been in here, and of course all of these are Caucasian type linguistics. But everybody else that's involved with this, if we step them back just one step from the language they would have had now, they would have all been able to talk to each other, somewhat like Tower of Babel, if you will. And that concept and that language would have been an Aryan language. And its remnant still echoes today all the way in Sanskrit, all the way through to Ireland and Russian, French, every language, German, blah, blah, blah. We've got Danish, you bet, everybody works under that same concept. So here's the deal on sites, and around, 90 sites with Natufians have been excavated, including, and it shows all these ones on the right that I can click on. Oh my gosh, look at these sites. But here they are again, listed. Let me do that again. Here they are listed, going down through. And as you can see, I've clicked on quite a few of them going through, and I'm developing another look at perhaps what had gone before in a couple of areas that they were a little bit vague on. We can also look at prehistory of the Levant. Kind of strange, and something I found too is all right down in here there was somebody that has connections with my name. But that's another thing. So the genetics of these people, and they tell you clear, straightforward that they were the ancient people of Levant all the way through, and their ancient connections, but yet at the same time that they were hooked up with the ancient Egyptians. And we've talked about how there was the Badarians and Akkadic cultures that came out of that, and they are related to the Natufians. So now we seem to have covered a span with just looking through these people here, from the Younger Dryas era all the way through to the forming of Egypt. And I think that's quite an accomplishment. And it's also correlated in one site here, not in 5 different videos I did at different times. I appreciate that, but I still ended up yakking so much I made it into 2 videos. So here's that fox teeth. Not wolf's teeth, fox teeth. They say it's like a necklace, but you would put it around her waist. Yeah. So, again, key points to the genetics here that they talked about, saying that Natufians shared no genetic affinity to present-day sub-Saharan Africans, but it has to do with back ancestry from Eurasia, but also that they are hooked up through all of these people that were all in North Africa in the Wayback Machine in the Green Sahara time, including the ancient Egyptians. Isn't that wonderful? Like, share, and subscribe, and enjoy, guys. And then again, if you haven't seen the first part of it, it's coming up in your top left-hand corner, and you can go back and take a look at it and roll through it again. Or if you didn't leave a message on it and jump to part 2, maybe go back and leave a message or a like if you like the information you found out. If you don't like the information that's shown here, I'm real sorry that you don't like reality. Peace.